Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. John of Capistrano. Our top story tonight, the war in the Middle East, and tonight a small sliver of hope with the news that Hamas freed 2 elderly Israeli women for humanitarian reasons. The International Committee of the Red Cross confirmed the release, saying, quote, "Our role as a neutral intermediary makes this work possible, and we are ready to facilitate any future release." This is the second group of hostages released by Hamas since the October 7th terrorist attack on Israel. In the meantime, the war rages on, with the Israelis conducting their heaviest airstrike bombardment on Gaza yet. As the death toll rises, Israel is still expected to launch a ground offensive into Gaza. The Israelis also carried out an airstrike on a mosque in the West Bank overnight, claiming Hamas was using that building to plan an upcoming attack. And in Lebanon, the threat from the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah is growing. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that if the group enters the war, it will be crippled, quote, with a force it cannot imagine. And for more, I want to bring in Israeli Government Spokesperson Tal Heinrich. Tal, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. A lot to get to. But first, it has been about 2 weeks since Hamas launched its horrific terror attacks on Israel. Talk to us about the impact that has had on Israelis and how life has changed since then.
It has changed significantly, Tracy. It's in fact day 17 since the October 7th massacre, and nobody in Israel is the same. Everyone in this country knows someone who was affected, someone who was killed. Just to remind you, the casualties on the Israeli side, it's 1,400 people were butchered by these barbarians. So everyone knows someone who was killed, who was abducted by Hamas, who was injured. We have thousands of people who were injured. We have 200,000 people who were evacuated within Israel from their communities in the south and in the north, because these are the front lines right now of the global war against terrorism. So the country is not the same. We are still working on trying to identify some of the victims. Some of these bodies are beyond recognition because of what Hamas has done to them.
And let's talk about that ground offensive that you all are preparing for. Why is that important? What are the challenges there, and why hasn't that taken place yet?
So it is important because, President Biden was here, and he said when he came back to the United States, he delivered an important speech where he said that we are at an inflection point in history, and terrorists can no longer, cannot get away with what they did. Hamas cannot get away with what they've done to Israelis, because if you are soft, if you address terror with weakness, and what they've done here is, it's the worst crime against the Jewish people. These are, war crimes since the Holocaust. So we cannot let them get away with this with impunity, because if we do so, if we send out a message of weakness, we just invite more terror. And it will happen again and again and again. This is why we have to hit Hamas hard, very hard, and reach each and every one of these terrorists. No place is safe for them right now. And send the right message also to our other adversaries across the region. And as for your second question, Israel is a sovereign nation, and our military brass and our government, the unity government that was established during this war, are taking all the considerations and making the decisions. So when the time is right, we will, of course, move to stage 2, stage 3 of the operation. When the time is right, when the conditions are right, of course, we're also working with international partners, as you know, because some of these civilians being held captive by Hamas are also foreign nationals or dual citizenship holders. So we are communicating with international partners, but we will do whatever it takes to dismantle and destroy this organization.
Tal, some people may ask, what is the end game here? So what is it for Israel?
The Israel is to dismantle Hamas. We will dismantle them militarily. They will no longer have military capabilities to hurt us as they did. They will also lack the motivation to hurt us as they did. We will bring down their governance bodies. Hamas will be no longer in the Gaza Strip.
Tal, I want to talk about how you balance all of this and also the humanitarian aspect of that, and also abide by, international humanitarian law. Talk to us about that.
So we are abiding by international law. We are not the aggressors here. We were attacked. We didn't even expect this war, as you know. We were surprised. We were surprised, in fact. We didn't start with this war, and we were dragged to it by Hamas. This is why we're responding right now to their aggression. Of course, we don't want any civilians in harm's way. We don't want Israeli civilians in harm's way, and we don't want Palestinian civilians in harm's way. This is why we have evacuated our population. So many people, again, 200,000 people from communities in the south and communities who reside close to the northern border, the border with Lebanon, where Iran-backed Hezbollah tries to test us. And we hope they don't turn this into a full-fledged war on another front. But we are also calling on the Palestinian civilians to evacuate within Gaza, to move from the northern part of the Strip to the southern part, because the heavy fighting will take place in the north. So the IDF designated special routes for them. We gave them prior notice of 2 days, in fact, prior notice to move to these areas in the south where they have, these are safer havens, and humanitarian aid is also awaiting.
And Tal, we will leave it right there. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you, Tracy.